So what did we discuss in our previous class? We are studying Bhagavad Gita chapter 6 called as Jnana Yoga. And last week we did up to verse 30. So what did we discuss in our last class?
How Jnana Yogi has to be determined in mind, and with perseverance execute the meditation to attain the realization. And there could be delay, but he needs to be with one-mindedness, follow with dedication and faith. And he can reach his goal even after many lifetimes. Whereas for a Bhakti Yogi, he has to just put his mind to Krishna, and by following the four regulations principles and in association of devotees, he can reach the realization just in one lifetime. And we also discussed the example of the sparrow, lost his eggs to the sea for his determination. And then we also discussed how not to be deviated. And there's a considerable amount of time on various types of deviations can happen for even the devotees. Then we also discussed the vision one attains after one reaches the realization, the mode of happiness he sees soul in all other living entities.
Very nice. Very good summary. Anything else? Anything else?
Restricted relationships.
We'll see more about restricted relationships. What is restricted relationships?
Explanation of how we can't have perfect relationships with everyone and how to then manage our relationships with different people.
We have to choose some seniors. We can choose some peers. And we can choose some juniors. With these seniors, we serve them and we try to imbibe their mood. With these peers, we have close friendships where we can share our heart and discuss anything with them. And we have to choose who are those juniors who we are cultivating. We cannot cultivate everyone because everyone will not accept our authority. 4 people may accept our authority, 3 may not accept our authority. So we cannot. Krishna consciousness preaching or counseling will only work if there is a relationship. Without a relationship, there cannot be, counseling will not work. And cultivation will not work. Like that. Okay? The person who we are cultivating should accept our authority. Otherwise, it becomes very difficult to cultivate anyone. So then we have to decide, okay, who am I cultivating? And then we have to. But serving is there in everywhere. It's not only that we should serve only seniors, we can serve our peers also, and we can serve our juniors also. People, in fact, many times we have to serve the people who we are cultivating to be able to cultivate them. That's how the relationship builds. Of course, they should also serve. But if they don't end up serving, then the relationship will not build. Correct? Relationship builds only when there is a two-way service like that. Two-way, so at least there should be reciprocation. Like that. Alright, so restricted relationships, the goal of restricted relationships is to be happy in Krishna consciousness. We cannot be happy in Krishna consciousness if we try to have good relationships with, we should try for good relations with all Vaishnavas, but if we believe that we are getting frustrated with one particular Vaishnava or 2-3 Vaishnavas, because you believe that the chemistry is just not working, then it's better not to lament over that and just leave it there and then intensify the relationships with few others. That is restricted relationships. But the essence is to be happy in Krishna consciousness. If we are not happy in Krishna consciousness, then we will not have, we will not be even able to be able to even serve happily. We cannot serve in the mode of goodness if we are not happy in Krishna consciousness. We will serve, but our service will be done very grudgingly, like that. Okay. So today we will go from chapter we'll go from text 31 to 39. We are continuing on the perfectional stage of meditation or Ashtanga Yoga, the same theme. So it's the Ashtanga Yoga theme. 31. Such a yogi who engages in the worshipful service of the Super Soul, knowing that I and the Super Soul are one, remains always in me in all circumstances. Okay? So who wants to read? Mother, you read. Gauri Mother, you read. Mother, just see who is this continuously calling me. So tell them I'm giving a class. Then I've already picked up. Say hello.
Hello.
Yeah, you go ahead.
A yogi who is practicing meditation on the Super Soul sees within himself the plenary portions of Krishna as Vishnu with 4 hands holding conch shell, wheel, club and lotus flower. The yogi should know that Vishnu is not different from Krishna. Krishna in this form of Super Soul is situated in everyone's heart. Furthermore, there is no difference between the innumerable Super Souls present in the innumerable hearts of living entities. Nor is there a difference between a Krishna conscious person always engaged in the transcendental loving service of Krishna and a perfect yogi engaged in meditation on the Super Soul. The yogi in Krishna consciousness, even though he may be engaged in various activities whilst in material existence, remains always situated in Krishna. This is confirmed in the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu of Srila Rupa Goswami. A devotee of the Lord always acting in Krishna consciousness is automatically liberated in the Narada Pancharatna. It is confirmed in this way. By concentrating one's attention on the transcendental form of Krishna, who is all-pervading and beyond time and space, one becomes absorbed in thinking of Krishna and then attains the happy state of transcendental association with him. Krishna consciousness is the highest stage of trance in yoga practice. This is very understanding that Krishna is present as Paramatma in everyone's heart, makes the yogi faultless. The Vedas confirm this inconceivable potency of the Lord as follows. Although the Lord is one, He is present in innumerable hearts as many. Similarly, in the Smriti Shastra it is said, Vishnu is one and yet He is certainly all-pervading. By His inconceivable potency, in spite of His one form, He is present everywhere as the sun appears in many places at once.
What are the points here?
How a yogi sees Paramatma in the forehand.
Pardon?
How a yogi sees, realizes the Paramatma feature with the forehand form.
2 points which sort of like a devotee of the Lord always acting in Krishna consciousness is automatically liberated. It's given here. And the second one was there is no difference between a person rendering devotional service, loving service to Krishna and a perfect yogi in meditation on the Super Soul. Basically, perfect yogi and person rendering the devotional service, they are equal. Whereas doing the meditational yoga is very, very tough from whatever we have understood so far. And rendering devotional service, if we try sincerely, is much more easier. And then we become equal to a perfect meditational yoga.
Where is Mataji? Front row. You can come and sit here.
She's not well.
Okay. Anything else?
Sometimes people ask us, if the Lord is one, then how can He be, everywhere at the same time? And energy that we have to go, Prabhupada gives us here. The sun is one, but it is present simultaneously everywhere. And also for the Dhyan Yogi, Krishna is saying, the knowledge is important because the Dhyan Yogi has to know that the Super Soul and Krishna are the same. Krishna saying, knowing that I and the Super Soul are one. So unless the Dhyan Yogi has the knowledge that the Super Soul is also an expansion of Krishna, then it's not perfect.
Yeah.
Devotees, even though externally looks like it's engaged in all the material activities, but it still is on the transcendental level. So anything done in the Krishna consciousness is not binding, so is liberated.
Krishna consciousness is the highest stage in yoga, and Krishna and Vishnu, they are not different.
We also understand from here, the yogi or devotee who is practicing Bhakti Yoga, so he's trying to get the Bhagavad realization. So he is already crossed over the Brahman Paramatma realization, because here Prabhupada making this that once he is performing yoga, even though he is able to see the Lord in Paramatma 400 form. So he knows that because he is after Bhagavan realization. Is it right if you understand like that, or is it
What is one?
a devotee who's after who's understand?
I can't hear you. What is it? Not just it's so distracting.
Devotee who understands
Not able to
the
concentrate.
so the point that devotee who understands that what Krishna and Vishnu are saying. So he is under the Bhagavan realization. The topmost
A
realization.
devotee has Bhagavan realization. That's what I heard your question.
Yeah, so now here, even so is he already Brahman Paramatma realized? So
Who?
he did not have to
Who?
a yogi. So
The Ashtanga Yogi cannot go beyond Paramatma realization.
so he is still. So but how we understand the what is still saying? How we understand it? Because he is only
Because he is having darshan of the Lord. No? So the Lord is revealing himself to him, saying that I am non-different. I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I am Vishnu. The Lord is revealing. What is not happening is the relationship has not happened. We cannot have relationship with Paramatma. We cannot have rasa with Paramatma. That is what has not happened so far. Darshan has happened, but rasa has not happened.
and what happens with a devotee? So is it if a I mean not in this context, if a devotee was worshipping the Supreme Lord, who is in the path of Bhakti Yoga, so that means he is already crossed over these two stages, or
Yeah, a pure devotee has already crossed these stages.
yeah.
Because a pure devotee directly has a relationship with the Lord. No? If you have a relationship with someone, then obviously you can see that person. But every person you see, you don't have a relationship with that person. Isn't it? So Brahman is the impersonal feature of the Lord. Paramatma is the personal feature, which you can see, the form of the Lord. And then Bhagavan feature mein you have rasa, which is relationship with that personal feature. One of the 5 rasas.
Like in the relation to this question, one time you said, what is like result of this Ashtanga Yogi? Like what do they attain in their next life?
Ashtanga Yogi.
Yes.
Is that a question?
Yes.
Ashtanga Yogi in their next lifetime attain whatever that their desire is. If Ashtanga Yogi has been perfected, but the desire is for Ashta Siddhis, then they attain Siddha Loka. But if an Ashtanga Yogi is very clear that he wants Paramatma realization, then he has Sakshat Darshan of Lord Narayan. And when he has such darshan, then Lord Narayan tells him that now you need to serve a spiritual master, a guru, you need to follow Bhakti Yoga, and then develop your relationship with me. Then you will see me again.
Don't they attain straightway Vaikuntha Loka because they are always meditating on the four-handed form of Lord Vishnu?
Ashtanga Yogi, the Paramatma realization is not an end. Paramatma realization is the next level of realization. And after Paramatma realization is Bhagavan realization. Then the Ashtanga Yogi will want a relationship with the Lord. It doesn't end at Paramatma relations. At least that's what we understand from seeing Narad Muni's pastime. The Lord appeared in front of him and said that you will not see me in this life again.
Yeah,
then you have to
Narad
serve
Muni
and then...
was not a Ashtanga Yogi. He became devotee by the mercy of the...
All the more. Even Narad Muni, though he was not an Ashtanga Yogi, Still when he had 4-armed form, the Lord told him, now you serve a Chaitya Guru and then come to me. So what to speak of the Ashtanga Yogi then? In fact, you see it the other way. Ashtanga Yogi, then how can he have a relationship with the Lord? See, because when you go to Vaikuntha Loka, then you have to have at least Dasya Ras. The Rasa has not developed of the Ashtanga Yogi. See, Ashtanga Yogi, what is the goal of Ashtanga Yogi at the end of the day? Ashtanga Yogi's goal is to come face to face with the object of his meditation. The whole goal of meditation is to come face to face with the object of the meditation, is to attain that object. So what is the perfection? They attain that object of Paramatma. But with Paramatma you cannot have rasa. Isn't it? You cannot just keep watching the Paramatma all the time. Then you need to have some relationship. So the Paramatma realization happens, by which the Ashtanga Yogi understands that the Lord is not only impersonal but this is personal and he has a personal form. Then the Ashtanga Yogi will have to try and develop that relationship, because that Paramatma, he will guide him. The Paramatma is also called Chaitya Guru. The Paramatma as Chaitya Guru will guide this person onto a devotee, and who if he serves in Bhakti Yoga, then the person can realize the Bhagavan feature of the Lord. Now that is different than Bhakti Yogis who do meditation and attain directly the Lord, Vaikuntha. What you are asking, I understand. From Srimad Bhagavatam, if you see Prithu Maharaj, how he left his body? It is pretty much Ashtanga Yoga, if you see. If you read Bhagavatam, you will find that Prithu Maharaj covered the holes of his body, etc., etc., and then he started meditating, and then he left. Now that is Bhakti Yoga. That is not Ashtanga Yoga. The Ashtanga Yoga is a process, but the goal is what? Is to attain loving service of Lord Krishna. So he attained that. But that practice is not recommended for this age. We cannot imitate Maharaj Prithu. It's not possible. Therefore Bhakti Yoga. So that is also Bhakti Yoga only. It's Bhakti Yoga through the process of meditation, Ashtanga. What we are following is Bhakti Yoga through the process of chanting, Sankirtan. Does it make sense or no? Bhakti Yoga in Ashtanga and Bhakti Yoga with Sankirtan. Like that.
Can we summarize then? Normal Ashtanga Yogi doesn't have knowledge of Bhakti. That's why he takes to Ashtanga Yoga.
Ashtanga Yoga may have normal.
If he had the knowledge available.
In those ages it was possible. In those ages it was possible because Harinam Sankirtan is Kali Yuga Dharma.
Okay.
In Kali Yuga there is no other way. But in other yugas there were other ways. And Ashtanga Yoga was one of the ways. A very popular way. If you see Bhagavatam, you see many of these personalities going back based on Ashtanga Yoga, where they sit and meditate. But the whole idea is they want to go back to the to Godhead. So they are meditating on Him.
When we read this book,
Whereas Narad Muni, if you see, Narad Muni, what he was, after he had, Narad Muni was chanting Om Namo Narayana. He started chanting, which he does even now. Sorry, what was the
when we
question?
read this book of Radhanath Swami's journey home, he goes to a lot of these, to the Himalayas, still sees a lot of these yogis who are doing this. So do those yogis, they know the bhakti process, but they choose to do all that, or...
I don't know. He has not written, so we don't know. So we just leave it like that. See, he has also not commented. See, because when you comment, then you are making an assumption that they don't know. People who can follow that process, Prabhupada also writes somewhere here, people who can follow that process, very well. Prabhupada writes actually in today's purports, in one of the purports Prabhupada writes, because later on Arjuna himself is telling Krishna, I can't do all this Ashtanga Yoga. It will come today in the 38th verse or something like that. Arjuna is saying, I can't do this. And Prabhupada says, even Arjuna can't do. We will come to that. Right? But Prabhupada says still few people may be able to do. Somebody may be able to do. Maybe a Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, he may be able to do. Living in Himalayas. But how many of us can go to Himalayas? Not possible, isn't it? We cannot live in the cold without clothes. Even when I have to come for Mangalarti nowadays, I have to wear that jacket and sit with the whatever in this cold. What to speak of going to the Himalayas without any clothes and wearing a kaupin and then meditating? First we have to be out of the bodily conception of life. Most of us are in the bodily conception of life. In the bodily conception of life, Ashtanga Yoga is not possible. Because Ashtanga Yoga requires qualifications for perfection. But Bhakti Yoga does not need qualifications for perfection.
Really, question on how would a normal yogi would have performed Ashtanga Yoga in Bhakti? Meaning they must have gone through the Bhagavatam and so on and so forth.
Certainly.
And then they follow that.
See, if you see all these devotees also who have led their body like that, they were actually empowered incarnations of the Lord. They were not sadhana siddhas. You know, there are two types of siddhas, two types of realized persons. One is Nitya Siddha and one is Sadhana Siddha. Nitya Siddha is a person who is eternally liberated, whereas Sadhana Siddha is a person who is liberated by virtue of his spiritual practices. We all fall under the category of Sadhana. There may be Nitya Siddha here, I don't know. Certainly I am not the one. Okay. If you know anyone, let me know. Nitya Siddha in this world. Huh? Who? Akandati Prabhu. Go, you are Nitya Siddha? Yes. There is Nitya Siddha, there is Sadhana Siddha, and there is Nitya Baddha. Nitya Baddha means eternally conditioned for many years in the material world. Anyone here? Okay.
There is Kripa Siddha.
The? Kripa Siddha. Yeah, we are all going to become Kripa Siddha only someday, because by mercy we can go back. Right? By virtue of our sadhana, if we have to go back, at least for me it's going to be very difficult. Because sometimes we do attentive chanting. And I don't think it's going to change very much in the next 30-40 years. If we live. It may not change much. So we all have to preach and wait for Prabhupada's mercy. Kripa Siddha. We need Kripa, mercy. So sorry, where was your question? What is it?
Kind of answered, yeah.
Kind of answered.
I still have the doubt, though.
What is your doubt?
No, that even though there is a yuga dharma for every yuga, and the knowledge of bhakti is the highest, has always been there, people still choose. I mean, they have to follow the yuga.
Your premise of your argument is that there was no bhakti there.
No, the knowledge.
I'm saying that they were part and parcels of the Lord. The question of bhakti doesn't. In fact, the question of sadhana doesn't arise for them in that sense, because they are part and Prithu Maharaj was an empowered incarnation of the Lord Himself.
So, for example, there could have been a situation where there is a sadhana siddha who is doing Ashtanga Yoga, who didn't have information.
I don't know of such a personality in the Bhagavatam.
Not in the Bhagavatam, but in general.
I have no idea. I don't know of a person who has done Ashtanga Yoga in a previous lifetime, who did not have bhakti, but purely by Ashtanga Yoga he has directly gone to Vaikuntha. I don't know of such a personality. Really don't know of such a personality.
Because if they had the conclusion of that knowledge that you have to go to Bhagavan, but by Ashtanga Yoga you only realize Paramatma, why would one endeavor to do that?
Because Paramatma Yogi, initially, those people, they are Brahmavadis. Brahmavadis, when they cannot see, when they attain through Jnana Yoga the impersonal feature, they want to see the personality behind that impersonal feature. So they just want to, they are inquisitive. They want to find out who is that person, who is behind the Brahman layer. So now they are seeing externally, then they start seeing internally. Right? When they see internally, then Paramatma realization comes. Through that process. Because they are just seeking to find right now. We are not finding Krishna. Our process is not one of just finding Krishna. Our process is of serving Krishna. That is the difference. Their process is of finding Krishna. Dhyana avastita tat gatena manasa pashyanti yam yogina. Lord Brahma says that whatever they do not know, what is that the goal of their meditation is that Bhagavan Krishna itself. They don't know. So Brahma is telling them, whatever my dear fools, whatever the object of your meditation is, that is Krishna only. Of course, he may not use the word fool, but I am saying that sometimes people don't know. Or they may have heard, but they want to find out still. Still there is doubt, no? See, even after so much of bhakti, all of us, here are fairly fixed in Krishna consciousness, right? We are chanting 16 rounds and following 4 regulative principles. But still, when last week Neela Gopa Prabhu met with that accident, many people have doubt. Prabhu, why it happens to devotees? Why Krishna is not protecting? All those questions come, no? Why such a nice devotee had to go through this, etc., etc. Which means our faith is what? Even now we are not sure. Krishna is there, but sometimes seems that he is not there. It's like that. When you see the person being wheeled, he has vomited blood and then he is being taken to the hospital on a stretcher, and you say, this person yesterday made khichdi and served all the devotees. The day before, everyone had nice khichdi. Remember, the taste was divine. Here, and then how can this happen to this person? There are so many people who are having alcohol on Friday night and roaming around, the druggies are roaming around in Fitzroy Street. Nothing happens to them. Why to this devotee then Krishna has put like that? So therefore these are all then our faith is little bit, maybe he's there, maybe I don't know, I'm not sure. But no, let me continue with the path. I'll understand sometime. It's like that. So our faith is all shaky. So if our faith is shaky, then why Ashtanga Yogi who doesn't have Prabhupada's books or any devotee Acharya guiding will have very good faith. He is also testing. Oh, okay, impersonal Brahman is there. Let me find out who is the personality behind that. Like that.
Prabhu, quick question. You mentioned that Ashtanga Yoga is a process to attain Bhakti. Can be a process to attain Bhakti Yoga, right? So for us it's Sankirtan, chanting. Can we say that for us Karma Yoga is also a process to attain Bhakti?
Karma Yoga for us is non-different from Krishna Consciousness. Prabhupada writes, chapter 4. Karma Yoga, action in Krishna Consciousness. The way we understand Karma Yoga and the way others understand Karma Yoga is different. That's why Prabhupada clarified. For us, our Karma Yoga is also Bhakti Yoga, our Jnana Yoga is also Bhakti Yoga, our Ashtanga is also Bhakti Yoga. Why? Because our Karma Yoga is what? Physically serving the Lord. Right? Whatever activities we do, for example, even if we go to work, from our salary we are donating to the temple, etc., etc. So that becomes Karma Yoga. The activity of going to the job is to maintain a Krishna conscious family. As long as we don't use our money for sense gratification, it becomes Karma Yoga. Isn't it? Connecting to the Lord through the medium of activity, which otherwise may not be directly connected. But when we actually serve in the temple, then that can be directly connected to Bhakti Yoga. When you are doing Aarti to the Lord, something like that. Or you are doing a wet side service or dry side service. Or pre-Guru Puja service. Or garland service. Then that is directly what it is Bhakti Yoga. When we do our duty towards our family, if we teach our children, how to do mathematics and physics, with a view that they should become very educated, so that then when they preach, they have a lot of credibility, like Devamrit Maharaj, like that, like that. Then, if we do it, as long as we do with that goal, then it remains Karma Yoga. Jnana Yoga. We do a lot of study, isn't it? We are going through the scriptures. Some people even take Sanskrit courses, some devotees, to be able to translate many of the books which are not translated today. Like Gopi Paranadhana Prabhu. Gopi Paranadhana Prabhu became a master in Sanskrit, and then he translated so many books. So many devotees in ISKCON are doing that. Bhanu Swami, he mastered Sanskrit to be able to translate Brahma Samhita and write the English in such a way that you and I can understand. Because Bhaktivedanta Maharaj's English goes above most people's heads. Right? Brahma Samhita translation, if you read Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, I have tried it many times and I have given up in my life. Not this lifetime. Maybe some other lifetime. Okay. So not possible. So then so many devotees are engaged. So that is Jnana Yoga for us. Reading the scriptures. Ashtanga Yoga. They also meditate, we also meditate. But we saw last week, what is the difference and what are the similarities? They don't associate. They do it in seclusion, we do it in association. Ashtanga Yogis do it in seclusion. Our practice is association. Okay. But we also meditate. We chant in association. They chant in seclusion. They meditate in seclusion.
So most of us will be Karma Yogis.
Most of us?
Will be Karma Yogis.
Most of us? No, we are Bhakti Yogis. Right? We are Bhakti Yogis. We do Bhakti Yoga sometimes through the medium of Karma. Some of the elements are through Karma Yoga. Some of our elements are Jnana Yoga. Some of our elements are meditation. Dhyana Yoga. Like that. Is it clear or not? But we are doing everything. Okay. So in this verse, Lord Krishna directly describes the super soul realization as a worshipful service to him. If the yogi has proper knowledge. If the yogi has proper knowledge that this Paramatma is none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then the Lord considers that as a service. So there is a connection in that sense to Bhakti Yoga. A very weak connection in that sense. It's beginning to manifest that connection. So Lord Krishna is describing the actions of a perfect yogi in this section, which is the faultless stage. Lord Krishna says, Srila Prabhupada purports, if you read, you will understand that the faultless stage is to understand that Paramatma is non-different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The faultless stage of Ashtanga Yoga is to understand that this Paramatma is none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that is where he lands up. And now to develop a relationship with that Supreme Personality of Godhead, then he has to practice Bhakti Yoga. That is in Kali Yuga. So, the process of meditating on the Supreme that has been discussed in Srila Prabhupada's purports, which you just now read. The process of meditating on the Supreme, which the Ashtanga Yogi does, is also our process. It's one of the 9 processes. Which process is that? Smaranam. Shravanam, Kirtanam and Vishnu Smaranam. So we are also meditating always on the Lord. Like that. It's one of the Navavida Bhakti, the 9 processes of devotional service. And the key thing to understand in this purport is that this Shravanam component, it permeates through all the other 8 components. Whatever we do, what is the most important principle that Rupa Goswami has said? Always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. Is it clear? Whatever we do, any of this, we may do Shravanam, we may do Kirtanam, we may do Pada Sevanam, we may do Archanam, right? But whatever we do, what is most important? Always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. So such a person who always thinks of the Lord in his heart with whatever he does is called as a Jivan Mukta. So the qualitative oneness of Paramatma and Bhagavan is the common aspect which is connecting Ashtanga Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. There is qualitative oneness. So the Paramatmavadi understands that this personality is none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then once he does that, then he is always meditating on that personally after some time. Like Narad Muni always, then his hankering increased to see the Lord again in that lifetime. So this Smaranam aspect is the practical essence of this purport is that Smaranam. So remembrance of the Lord. Whether the Ashtanga Yogi does or whether the devotee does, the Lord takes it as a service. Even when we are remembering the Lord, it's a service. It's a devotional service. The Lord accepts it as a service. So in this purport, if you see, the Lord accepts the meditation of the Paramatmavadi as a service. As much as he accepts our meditation also as a service. That's why it's one of the Navavida Bhakti components. Now, this is important to understand because it's very easy to forget the Lord even when we are doing services. It becomes very easy to forget the Lord when we are serving. Or not being able to relate our activity to Krishna consciousness. Sometimes at workplace, it becomes very difficult. In a very heated meeting, you are there, or you are doing a PowerPoint presentation to the customer on what should be the IT strategy of the bank. And then suddenly you are thinking, oh God, Jivera Swarupe Hoy Nityara Krishnadas. Or you are doing an implementation plan for a key cutover weekend. And then you are thinking, what the hell am I doing here? Right? So then we can't connect that activity. But through Smaranam process, if we always keep the Lord in mind throughout the day, then we will be able to see the connection of what we are doing with Krishna consciousness. Like that. So it's a very nice idea to have a altar wherever your desk is, to have a small photograph of the Lord. I have 3 photographs on all, because there is no one. This way I can't put any, otherwise I would have put. I have 1 and 2 also. I have put here Radha Gopinath, and then I have put here Gaur Nitai, like that. So sometimes I talk to them. Because you come out of a meeting and you are feeling, why am I working? And then he is smiling at you. He's saying, continue. You took Grihastha Ashram. I didn't ask you to. Now work and support your family. Okay. But Grihastha Ashram is a nice ashram. Actually, it's a nice ashram. Somebody was... Huh? What is it? Escape.
There
You can escape from this class. Tomorrow you have to come to my house for prasadam. You cannot escape from her. You cannot escape. Tomorrow is Sunday also. No, you'll get prasadam in the temple tomorrow. Come for Bhagavatam class. Okay, so Grihastha ashram actually is a glorious ashram. This morning I was talking to one devotee this person is having a lot of challenges. Okay. Sometimes what happens, because of some decisions which you took before becoming Krishna conscious, then those decisions come to haunt you after you have become a devotee. For example, if I married someone, love marriage, okay, and then you love that person before marriage, and that person also loves you. Love marriage means you know what love marriage is. Love marriage of the material world is bodily attraction at the end of the day. It's given a name, love marriage. Okay, whatever. So that marriage happens, and after that the wife is very attached to Krishna consciousness, and the husband is not interested. Okay, not at all interested, like that. Or vice versa. The husband is very deep in Krishna consciousness, but the wife is not at all interested. One partner has aligned and the other one is not. But marriage has already happened. Kids have also come before Krishna consciousness. Now this is a very difficult situation. So such a person, such a Mataji or Prabhuji may feel, oh my God, this Grihastha ashram, and this is what happened in the morning. Oh, why Grihastha ashram? Like that. Obviously then I had to explain to that person that it is not the Grihastha ashram that is a problem. It is the events in our life which has happened before we became a devotee. There are certain things which you can't change now. You can't come into Krishna consciousness and say, my wife is not a devotee, or my husband is not a devotee. Divorce. No, it doesn't work like that. Srila Prabhupada said no divorces. Divorces word is not there in Sanskrit also. There is nothing called as divorce. Okay? Because we have to go through our karma. Isn't it? You have to go through. Of course, there are extreme situations when it is permitted. You have to be practical. If the husband, for example, is beating the wife continuously, right? Or something, or if the wife is not loyal, not chaste, whatever, then there are situations when then we can't serve the Lord together. That's a different case. Okay? In Kali Yuga, such things are there. We will not get into that. And I am not a subject matter expert also in that area, so I'll better not talk about that. But on an overall, at a very high level, Srila Prabhupada did not encourage the concept of divorce. So at best, then the husband has to cooperate with the wife, or the wife has to cooperate with the husband to bring the other spouse into Krishna consciousness. And that can be a Herculean task. For example, if the husband is a devotee and the wife is not a devotee, for example, okay, sometimes the problem gets compounded. Okay, this is a practical problem. Okay, so don't. What is going on? Just lock the door, please. Continuously, this is. I can't concentrate, like this. I just can't concentrate. Who is that? So okay, let me give this responsibility to parents. If you believe that your kid needs constant attention in and out, then please sit outside the class. So that you are also not disturbed, others are also not disturbed, I am also not disturbed. Okay? And take the kid out and sit outside the class. We can't control them. They are young, we can't blame them. But the parents can take ownership like that. Alright, so what was I saying? I completely lost my thread. Yeah. So sometimes what happens is, again, let's take this case. The husband is, or the wife, let's say, or the husband, whatever. One of them is from India and the wife is from Australia, let us say, hypothetically. Love marriage has happened. Husband came here a student, fell in love with Australian woman. Husband is Indian boy, fell in love with Australian woman, marriage happened, children happened. Now for husband it's very easy to come into Krishna consciousness, because in India by default there is a culture of Krishna consciousness, which is unfortunately not there. Before Prabhupada was not there at all, isn't it? Virtually absent. Now what happens? Then the Mataji is now from a different cultural background and the Prabhuji is from a different cultural background. Now it becomes a problem because now the husband wants to become very deep in Krishna consciousness, or vice versa. The Mataji will be Indian and the husband will be not Indian, let us say. Okay, so then there is and then that person may have his own preferences. He may allow you to practice your Krishna consciousness. But then, how long can you live inside four walls where one person is simply allowing the other person to do Krishna consciousness? You can't live a lifetime like that. At some point in time, the tracks have to meet in Grihastha Ashram, isn't it? It's a practical reality. We can't live a life of adjustment for a very, very long time in Kali Yuga. It may be possible, some people can do it, but usually it becomes difficult because at some point in time, things clash. So then the husband, for example, in this case, if the husband is, the more Krishna conscious person and the wife is favorable, but not quite into it, like that, then what happens is, then the husband, in order to move the Grihastha Ashram together, may have to have some parties at home, invite lot of friends, and tolerate some other music in the house, so many things, and still practice his or her Krishna consciousness, like that. So there are a lot of adjustments. So one may not be able to relate that activity to Bhakti Yoga. Does it make sense or not? Are you with me on the theme what we are discussing? We are discussing this theme of Smaranam. Whatever activities that a Grihastha does, he may not be able to relate. And I am talking about a situation of an extreme challenge where the husband has to do certain activities of calling friends and tolerating some TV and music. So Michael Jackson is dancing on the TV, and then the husband has to tolerate because the wife wants to hear, or vice versa, right? Or the wife is, sometimes you will find that the husband is from India and the wife is from Western, but the wife is more fixed than the husband. That is also possible, right? And the husband is watching Bollywood all the time, and the wife has to put up with it. Oh my God, what to do with this fellow? I married him before I became devotee, like that. So then, in order to bring the other spouse into Krishna consciousness, if you have to tolerate certain things and then be able to do those activities, always thinking of Krishna in the mind. How you are thinking of Krishna? You are praying to Krishna. Krishna, I am doing all this so that just, someday my wife will understand my love for her, or someday my husband will understand my love for him, and therefore come to Krishna consciousness. Slowly trying to bring that Krishna inside. For example, if you have to hold parties, then you say, no problem, darling. We will hold the party. No problem, honey. We will hold the party. But can we serve prasadam in the party? Oh, very good. So serve prasadam in the party. No problem. First class music will be there. We will have nice disco type music. Yashomati Nandana Braja Baranaga. Like that. Okay. We will put that type of music. So people will think, hey man, this is cool. Okay. If you put Yashomati Nandana, if you put like that, people will not come. Same thing, you put little bit tweak like that. In Chiru Prabhu's marriage, we did that. Chiru Prabhu told my father-in-law want Dinchak music. He said, powerful music. So I told him, I'll give you a cassette, and I gave him cassette. He took from there. Those days cassettes were there, still there. I told him, you go and burn CD there. And then he put that music, and he said everyone was dancing in the marriage. Nobody knew it was bhajan. They thought it was some Bollywood music. It was one of those, So do whatever it is required. So what you are doing is the activity apparently is all looks like it's diluted and watered down. But what you are trying to do, you are trying to go through all the turbulence, always thinking of Krishna. That someday with all this, the other spouse will come. So we may not be able to relate certain things, but they are all Bhakti Yoga only. Raising children, assisting devotees in material life. Some devotee is struggling, Prabhuji, can you please help me clear the IELTS exam? Because I want Australian citizenship. Therefore, then you sit and teach that Prabhu or Mataji how to write essays in English. But it is Bhakti Yoga. Because why? Because that devotee may be required in the temple. They may be doing a lot of services in the temple. If they lose their visa, they have to go back. So that activity, when we sit and try to tell them, okay, nouns how to use, adjectives how to use, where to use, how to paraphrase something. So all these things, these are all components of Bhakti Yoga. So sometimes we cannot see the connection. We have to be able to see the thread. Like that. counseling, for example, getting into people's personal lives to be able to solve an issue. And we have to do it a lot of time. In fact, after a few years, all the time, some issue will be there. So getting into people's lives, understanding their problems, guiding them in a Krishna conscious way, as in the mood of a servant, not in a condescending mood. Like that. Just because somebody is coming to you, then you start taking advantage and start instructing and start controlling their lives like that. No, not that way. As a servant, trying to just guide that person to Krishna consciousness, that family to Krishna consciousness. So this will keep coming all the time. Now that activity apparently may not seem a bhakti yoga, but that investment of time on our behalf to bring somebody to facilitate a couple, for example, who have problems, to bring them in Krishna consciousness. That is an activity of bhakti yoga. Like that. So all these are connection. Because the smaranam is what? Though you are trying to do this, your smaranam is always, how can this person become Krishna conscious? How can this person become more and more deeper in Krishna consciousness? Because we know that the root cause of all problems in this world is what? Lack of Krishna consciousness. Where there is lack of Krishna consciousness? Everywhere. Yeah. But the answer what I was looking for is in us. That is where the problem is. Until that is not solved, then the lens with which we see the world is also not correct. We are still seeing not Premanjana Churita, we are seeing Kamanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochana. Not Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochana. We are seeing our eyes are tinted with the ointment of ignorance. Not tinted also, they are full of ignorance. There is no need of a tint. So that is the problem. So the way we see the world, then we will respond with the world like that. So it's very important to see. So this Smaranam, Srila Prabhupada often gives this example. He says that you go about just like a wife goes about doing her duties for the husband. Cooks very nicely, irons his shirt, and then says, honey, your suit is ready, and all that. But in the mind she is thinking of her lover. Oh, after this fellow goes, then I can really start my love affair with the person who I really love. Prabhupada actually gives it, though it doesn't look like a very nice example, but Prabhupada gives this example. That's how we must deal with the material world. When we go to office or something, deal with people. Oh, how's the footy game? Oh my God, the Saints, they just lost. I'm so disappointed that Collingwood lost. Who cares Collingwood lost? Oh, I'm so disappointed that Collingwood lost. Just say that, but inside the mind think, Krishna, I want this job. Otherwise I can't contribute for Janmashtami. So this fellow who is my boss, he is so obsessed with this Collingwood and that Saints or whatever, demons and what are those footy groups. I have to take interest. Once I was having a very boring conversation with someone. It was really going bapre with that fellow. You know who? Your boss. I was having that conversation. I think he liked something. I don't know what. Some game, ice hockey, something, not baseball. I have no knowledge of baseball. Okay. Oh, is it baseball? Oh, fantastic! What a nice game. Oh, and he went on and on explaining to me, the intricacies of baseball. And I didn't know how to get out from there. Then I was praying to the Lord. Lord, can you please make him shut up now? I want to go now. But I wanted to get something done, and I wanted to maintain some relationship because I have to get some work done out of that fellow. Now what to do? Okay, so I have to relate to him in some way, isn't it? So therefore we have to do. So it's like that. We deal with the objects like that, but in our mind always it is Krishna. You have to deal because at the end of the day you need that job to be able to maintain your Krishna conscious family. Like that. So all these activities, all the time, if one is always in smaranam of Krishna and then doing all the activities, then that is Jivan Mukta. Like that. Of course we can't do that. It's a challenge for all of us. At least for myself. Can't do that all the time. For example, just now, we have this harmonium session, at 5 o'clock on top. Sometimes I have this weakness. Sometimes I have this weakness that because I like music very much. So I was a hardcore Bollywood fan of Bollywood music as well as rock music. Both I used to hear. I was well versed with rock music also of the 80s, like that. So I'm so fond of that sometimes I get carried away, with the sur and rag and all that, and I forget that at the end of the day we are practicing kirtan. Don't forget that. So that smaranam angle. So when you are doing that practice, then the mind goes away sometimes. Even when we are playing mridanga or kirtan, or playing in the temple, we can just easily get carried away. Even when Madhava Prabhu, I have seen that many times. when Madhav Prabhu, he raises the kirtan, it's now 10:30 in the night. And now the kirtan is coming to a crescendo. 10, the temple doors are going to close. And Madhav Prabhu is doing the final 15 minutes. And he's singing, and people are jumping and dancing crazy. Because Madhav Prabhu, you know how it is. Whenever he comes, or Gauravani, when they come here, we go crazy and start dancing. But suddenly after some time I'm thinking, did I think of Krishna here? I'm dancing, singing. I'm singing Hare Krishna Mahamantra only is going on. But the last person in my heart is who? I'm not even thinking of Krishna. I'm obsessed. I'm enjoying the music. The music has taken over me, not the Mahamantra. Does it make sense? I'm not thinking of Krishna like that. So that is because we still have not developed the stage of ruchi or taste. It is still we are in anartha nivriti stage, where the excellence of elements can, in one sense, take us away from Krishna. And we also need the excellence of elements to be in Krishna consciousness. But the same excellence of elements can also take us away from Krishna consciousness. So this Smaranam activity is very, very important. Always not losing the focus of why we are doing something. Sometimes even when we are doing, even for example, when we are doing some intense planning, for a temple project, then we can completely forget the goal as to why we are doing that particular project. And devotees can start blaspheming each other. Why that person can speaking like that? I don't like that devotee. He is doing like this. He is doing like that. So we have forgotten the whole goal of the project is to please Krishna, and we become very project oriented. We don't become people oriented. In office we have to be project oriented, result oriented. Whereas in Krishna consciousness, people are more important than projects. At least my Guru Maharaj keeps hammering this point all the time. Don't become project people, become people. Right? It is relationships which is most important in Krishna consciousness. Because when we are lying there in that hospital in ICU, who is going to chant for us? Not the projects we do. It is these devotees who will chant for us. When we are in a situation where death is coming and we can't even remember anything, right? We can't chant, then who will chant for us? Devotees. So relationship with devotees is very, very important. So no project is above relationships. Of course, we have to understand practically. We have to understand this practically also. There is a practical element. It doesn't mean that means you be goody with everyone and then don't do any projects. If suppose there is a group and they says, okay, we are all now decided, temple has decided to do this project, and someone says, no, I am not interested. Oh no, Prabhu, okay, you are not interested, I am also not interested, Prabhu, because I want to maintain my relationship with you. It doesn't work like that. So don't take it literally. It just means that at the end of the day, handle differences also with love. We have to learn to handle differences with love. With differences with devotees with love. That is very difficult. Very difficult. Vignesh Prabhu, is it easy or difficult? Very difficult. So Srila Prabhupada purports that it has a Smaranam theme in this purports. And the Ashtanga Yogi is also doing that Smaranam. So that was 31, right?
Yeah.
32. He is a perfect yogi who by comparison to his own self sees the true equality of all beings in both their happiness and their distress. O Arjuna. Ruchi Mataji, you want to be?
One who is Krishna conscious is a perfect yogi. He is aware of everyone's happiness and distress by dint of his own personal experience. The cause of his distress of a living entity is forgetfulness of his relationship with God. And the cause of happiness is knowing Krishna to be the supreme enjoyer of all the activities of the human being, the proprietor of all lands and planets, and the sincerest friend of all living entities. The perfect yogi knows that the living being who is conditioned by the modes of material nature is subjected to the threefold material mysteries due to forgetfulness of his relationship with Krishna. And because one in Krishna consciousness is happy, he tries to distribute the knowledge of Krishna everywhere. Since the perfect yogi tries to broadcast the importance of becoming Krishna conscious, he is the best philanthropist in the world, and he is the dearest servitor of the Lord. In other words, a devotee of the Lord always looks to the welfare of all living entities, and in this way he is factually the friend of everyone. He is the best yogi because he does not desire perfection in yoga for his personal benefit. but tries for others also. He does not envy his fellow living entities. He is a contrast between a pure devotee of the Lord and a yogi interested only in his personal elevation. The yogi who has withdrawn to a secluded place in order to meditate perfectly may not be as perfect as a devotee who is trying his best to turn every man towards Krishna consciousness.
Okay. What are the points here?
Krishna conscious person is a great yogi.
Why?
Because yogi, he is doing the yoga meditation for his own benefit. But a Krishna conscious person tries to spread the message of Krishna to everyone.
And that's why Krishna conscious person is the only best philanthropist.
Yeah.
Cause of distress, because of forgetfulness.
Yes. Yeah. Good point.
What is that?
Cause of all distress in this world is forgetfulness of.
Devotees, person in Krishna consciousness is better because he is not going to a secluded place. Also, he is getting involved in all the other activities by helping other people. At the same time, my understanding, this devotee is seeing everything in relation to Krishna by when he is trying to help, he or she is trying to help other people. Whereas the person, a yogi who is going to a secluded place, is trying to differentiate between himself or the other things because he is trying to get into seclusion. So maybe he is not seeing everything in relation to Krishna. Yes.
Okay. So, it is mentioned here that by proper worship of the super soul, then the yogi understands the actual situation of the soul in the material world. Now, as Mataji was pointing out, as devotees, we need to get the conviction that lack of Krishna consciousness is the root of all problems in this material world. We need to have complete conviction of this. At least for myself personally, initially I didn't understand. For the first few years in Krishna consciousness, I didn't understand why Prabhupada is making that statement. That lack of Krishna consciousness is the root of all problem in this material. I said, root of all problem? Yeah, maybe root of maximum problem, but not root of all problem. Right? The word all. Root of all problem is lack of Krishna consciousness. So after many years, we come to understand what Srila Prabhupada is meaning there. That actually it is true. The lack of Krishna consciousness is the root of all problems in this material world. So, a devotee needs to get this conviction. And because that becomes the basis of counseling people. When we take up the process of counseling, then we need to have the conviction that whatever problems are happening in anybody's life, any kind of problem, it is only because of lack of Krishna consciousness. Because that is at the root of all problems, that avidya. When that is sorted out, everything is sorted out. Like that. So, there are many devotees who have come back and said, especially in Grihastha ashram, because Grihastha ashram, over so many years, even in Melbourne, we have seen so many Grihasthas. Sometimes the life is not very hunky-dory. Right? There are issues. So when devotees have come with issues and then they have adopted serious Krishna consciousness, invariably they have come back and said that yes, when this was fixed, then all our other problems got fixed in marriage. Recently also, one of the in one of the Bhakti Vrikshas in Melbourne, one devotee said this realization. When we were asked, the question was, how has Krishna consciousness, tell me one thing that Krishna consciousness in life that has changed for you. So this person said that before that, lot of problems in marriage. But after Krishna consciousness, then we understand, I am understanding who I am and I understood who my wife is. Like that. And then all problems solved. Both are servants of Krishna. Both have to together serve Krishna. If as long as we don't do that, there will be problems. And if you do that, then there are no problems. Right? There is no difficulty in Grihastha Ashram. If the goal is to serve Krishna, like that. So we need to understand that lack of Krishna consciousness is the root of all evil. Guna and karma. Both are responsible for all these problems. Our guna and our karma. So it's our desire and our activities, including our relationships, which are based on that desire. If any activity or any relationships we develop which are not based on the platform of Krishna consciousness, then such things will not give us permanent joy. Like that. So Srila Prabhupada is contrasting a yogi who works for his own deliverance with one who works for the deliverance of everyone. Like that. So on one hand is the Ashtanga yogi, who goes to a secluded place, practices and tries to deliver himself or tries to liberate himself. On the other hand, we see someone like Ramanujacharya. Ramanujacharya is the most eminent spiritual master or Goswami in the Sri Sampradaya. Which Sampradaya are we? Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. There is another Sampradaya which starts from Lakshmi, that is called as Sri Sampradaya. That is also bona fide Sampradaya, Vaishnava Sampradaya. Now the Acharya, the leading Acharya there, like we have Rupa Goswami, Jiva Goswami, like that. Who is the Acharya for them? Ramanujacharya. Like that. So this Ramanujacharya, he walked 17 times. From where to where? From Kanchi to Srirangam. When I went for South India Yatra 2 years back with my spiritual master, even sitting in the bus I got a backache, going from Kanchipuram to Srirangam. And Ramanujacharya walked, and we needed a lot of things to eat, and prasadam was arranged. Prabhu, the bus will stop somewhere, we need this break, that break. And Ramanujacharya did not have any bus. He walked 17 times. Why? Simply to get initiation. And every time he went, he served and served and served, and his spiritual master said, next time. Next time. Even the 17th time, the spiritual master said, next time. And then it was the devotee's intervention. They said, look, please, you give him. And he was already a pure devotee. By that time, he was already being recognized as an Acharya by others. Like that. And after that 17th time, the spiritual master told me, okay, I will give you on one condition. I will give you a mantra, but you will not tell it to anyone. You should keep it secret with you. You should not tell anyone. Otherwise you will go to hell. Ramanujacharya, he said, yes, please tell me that mantra. And then his spiritual master gave him the Om Namo Narayanaya. He gave him that mantra. So when Ramanujacharya, because he was already a pure devotee, when he started chanting that mantra, he got Ashta Satvika Bhava. He got all the ecstatic symptoms when he chanted. He said, what kind of mantra is this? The name of Lord Narayan. He said, what kind of mantra is this? It gives me so much transcendental bliss. And then suddenly, as he was walking on the road, he saw people suffering. This place was called Tirugoshtiyur. He saw people suffering. He said, I am in so much bliss and these people are suffering. If they also get this mantra, even their suffering will end. And then he remembered, but my spiritual master, actually he didn't even think about it. So he straight away went on the rooftop and said, oh my dear folks, come here, I have got some mantra for all of you. Come, I will tell you, Om Namo Narayanaya. He shouted from the top. We visited that place. Our Guru Maharaj took us to that place where he did this pastime. So he shouted to the whole village. And then all of them chanted this mantra. And everyone was ecstatic after that. Now when the spiritual master heard of this, you know what happened. He was in trouble. Spiritual master refused to see him first. He said, I don't want to look at him. He said, no, you have to meet him. Then he told Ramanujacharya, I told you that you will go to hell. you have disobeyed me. I am extremely disappointed. Like that. I gave you this mantra. I told you not to tell it. So Ramanujacharya said that yes, I know that I will go to hell, but if millions and millions of these people are saved, and for that one Ramanujacharya has to go to hell, so what? I will go to hell many, many lifetimes. Like that. And when he said this to his spiritual master told him, actually, you are my spiritual master. You have more compassion than what I have. You are the Acharya, he said. Like that. So this is the glory of Ram. So on one hand, we find the Ashtanga Yogi who is meditating for his own perfection. On one hand is Ramanujacharya who is willing to take risks for saving the entire world. Jesus Christ is another such personality who went to the cross. Despite being crucified, he is saying, oh Lord, please pardon them, for they don't know not what they are doing. What kind of consciousness is that? Just imagine. Very high level of consciousness. The desire simply to deliver the world, to give knowledge of God. Like that. So Srila Prabhupada is trying to bring out the glory of a devotee. How a devotee is more glorious than a Ashtanga Yogi. Like that. From the vantage point, from the reference point of compassion. Now, even within devotees, there are two types of devotees, Bhajananandi and Ghoshti Anandi. Bhajananandi saints are those people who go to the forest and do Nirjan Bhajan. In Vrindavan, if you go, you will find there are many people who have taken Babaji wish. They are all Babajis. They don't come out at all. They only come for Madhukari. What is Madhukari? Food which is obtained by begging. So they just come out for Madhukari and then they beg and then they again go to the forest and they are 24/7 meditating on Krishna Leela. Like that. Undoubtedly they are glorious. It is very difficult to be a Bhajananandi saint actually. And if you read books like, I have read two books, Saints of Bengal and Saints of Vraja, which is written by Srila Prabhupada's godbrother. It was published in Back to Godhead magazine also, these books. By Adi Keshav Prabhu, who was Srila Prabhupada's godbrother. So who has researched genuine saints, because there are a lot of bogus saints also. Bogus Babajis are also there. But he has researched. He has spent a lifetime in doing this research to find out who are the genuine realized Babajis, pure devotees like that. And he has written that book. So if you see that, they are really glorious. It's very difficult to be a Babaji like that. But Prabhupada's mood is different. Prabhupada's mood is not Babaji mood. Prabhupada's mood is what? Sannyasi, not Babaji. Parivrajaka Sannyasi, that too. Parivrajaka Sannyasi means what? A wandering sannyasi whose only job is to travel all over the world, not to sit at one place and meditate. That's why you find all our spiritual masters, they are all having a hectic travel schedule all over the world. Especially if you see Sankarshan Das Adhikari Maharaj, mind-boggling schedule, of travel. Any Maharaj you say, Jayapataka Maharaj, even in this situation, he is coming to Australia. Such a poor condition of health, but still his only desire is to give Krishna consciousness to others. This is an intense desire. Once when Radhanath Swami Maharaj invited Jayapataka, when he had this problem, in the initial stage, he was pretty serious and he was just getting, he was just getting back his health. At that time, His Holiness Radhanath Swami, he conducts what is called as Pune Yatra. So for that, he invited Jayapataka Maharaj. He said, Maharaj, would you like to come? When Maharaj heard it, he said, yes, I want to go there. And all the disciples came and said, Maharaj, you can't move from here. What do you mean? You are going from here all the way till Pune, you have to undergo a journey. You cannot undergo the journey. So they went and consulted the doctor. Who were the doctors? Many of the doctors were disciples of Radhanath Maharaj also there. They also advised, no, you should not travel like that. No, you cannot travel. So most doctors were devotee doctors. All the devotee doctors said he should not travel. But there was one non-devotee doctor. What did he say? He said, I know this person. You cannot keep him here. He has to be very happy inside his heart. That will cure him. And he will never be happy sitting here. You allow him to go. The non-devotee doctor gave him instruction that he should go to Pune to preach Krishna consciousness. Whereas the devotee doctor said otherwise. This is what Keshav Prabhu told us in the class one day. I also heard it elsewhere. But then Jayapataka Maharaj, when that devotee doctor said, okay, fine. So Maharaj went there and he addressed the Pune Yatra and everything was very fine. People were just crazy when Maharaj went there, like that. So this is the compassion of a saintly person who does not care about any of his health condition. Just wants to deliver this world. That's the only mission in life. Like that. Contrasting that to a Ashtanga yogi. So our mode is very different even from the Bhajananandi saints in the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. The Bhajananandi saints go and meditate on the Ashtakali Leela pastimes. They go into the forest and they are only meditating on Radha and Krishna. Many of them are engaged in doing Manasa Puja, mind seva within the mind, like that. And then at the end Radharani comes and takes them back, like that. But where is our Kurukshetra? Yeah, the preaching is our battlefield. The Kshetra, it is our Kshetra, the place of work. That is for us. So for us, our mood is what? To give up our body in while preaching. Gaur Govind Maharaj is one very good example of that. Maharaj gave up his body after giving Bhagavatam class. Gone, like that. So that's our mood. So building temples, in different parts of India and abroad, outside of India, bringing more and more people to Krishna consciousness. That's our business. When we do that, then we automatically get the kripa or the mercy of the Acharyas. And that is the highest philanthropic work, because that is directly Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instruction. What is Mahaprabhu's instruction? Yara deke tare kaha Krishna upadesh amara agya guru hana tara desh. He says, it is my order that all of you must. Now how can we not obey that order? Right? So when we obey that order, even though we are imperfect, still we can go back by the mercy quota. It doesn't mean that we can be imperfect. It is not a license to be imperfect. But if we are striving for perfection, but still we cannot, then we can still go back. And that question is also asked by Arjuna later on. In the same chapter, Arjuna asks in the 40th verse or somewhere, what if a person fails? What happens to such a person? Like that. So Bhajananandi versus Goshti Anandi. But as a devotees, we have to draw a balance. Now this is very important to understand. Bhajananandi versus Goshti Anandi. On one hand are the Bhajananandi saints who are largely interested in their own deliverance. Of course, see, please understand, Bhajananandi saints also preach in one way. How? They preach by the example of their life. So we should not denigrate or look down upon Bhajananandi saints. Bhajananandi saints are glorious actually, right? We need Bhajananandi saints also. They have perfected the bhajan, like that. Of course, because they stay in the forest, they try to stay away from worldly people. Right? Because it disturbs their mood, like that. Whereas Goshti Anandi saint, he plunges into, Prabhupada went into the Boweries of New York to preach. Prabhupada could have also been Bhajananandi nicely in Vrindavan. He was already in Vrindavan, right? He had all the knowledge, he had all the realization, he could have gone back. But if Prabhupada wouldn't have gone to Boweries, then we wouldn't have come out of the gutter where we are in, right? None of us will be sitting in this room. But for Prabhupada, just see how many people are sitting in this room now. So that is why, that's when we can appreciate that a Goshti Anandi saint is more venerable in that sense, if you see. However, as devotees, we have to really balance our preaching and our sadhana. Sometimes devotees, what happens, in the name of preaching, we ignore our sadhana. In devotional life, if you see even the spectrum of devotees, even in our congregation, we will meet devotees who are preaching, but their own sadhana is, in Hindi we say Damadol, like that, okay? We may open Bhakti Vriksha programs, we may open youth programs, this program, that program, etc. We may do lot of seva also. We may be the best when it comes to cooking khichdi in the temple. Okay, we may be running around with bowls and buckets here and there with our whole body smeared with khichdi and this and that and whatever, But our sadhana will be Damadol. Damadol means topsy-turvy, right? So devotees may have a high penchant for seva, but then the sadhana is down. Never there in Bhagavatam class, never there in Mangalarti, or never doing the rounds in the morning time, just rotating the beats. Prabhu, so much, I don't have time for 16 rounds, I'll complete it because whole day, Prabhu, I was busy, catering program was there here, catering project is going on, Uruvilamba festival, I was doing garland, I was putting pandal somewhere, but no time for chanting. This is the problem. On the other hand, other side of devotees. No? Prabhu, Prabhu, I just want to come nicely for Mangalarti and chant Prabhu. I am not confident of preaching. I don't know if I preach, somebody will come, somebody will not come. Better I come to the temple, I'll do my sadhana, I'll go home, I'll read Prabhupada's books and be happy. This is another spectrum. I'll do my reading, hearing and chanting, but I will not preach. Like that. This is another spectrum. Both will not progress. So therefore, inside our heart also there is a Bhajananandi and a Goshtianandi. Both have to balance. It is a balance. We have to focus on our sadhana as well as go out and do our... Because if we only focus on our sadhana and don't do that service, then mercy quota, where will it come from? Correct? And if we only do the service and don't do our sadhana, then why will you go back to Godhead? Where is the purity then? Correct? Sometimes we can even get, because when we do too much of seva and lot of seva but without sadhana, then what will happen? We will get attached to that seva also. Then what will happen? If that seva is given to somebody else, then we will walk out of the temple. We say, I don't want to come to this temple. Too much politics. I was doing this service. Some other devotee has got that service. I am not going to this temple anymore. Like that. And you will not see the devotee at all after some time. Because then too much attachment to that particular service. I will serve the Lord only in this way. Otherwise I will not serve. This can happen. So then our behavior, sometimes we may find devotees are very high on sadhana, on seva, but very low on behavior. You have seen that? Lot of seva will be there, running around with buckets, this, that. But then no manners when speaking to devotees. Prabhuji, come in queue. That's the way they'll take. Just because today they are serving. Or serving with anger. Prabhuji, plate. Like that. Just because maybe Prabhuji was talking to someone. Prabhuji, like that. There is a queue here. Come on. So Krishna is going to come with a flute. What? I am so pleased with your service, my dear. He is going to come with a flute or what? He'll come with a gada. Give a tonk on our head. Saying behave yourself. So only seva without proper sadhana, without proper hearing and chanting will not give the proper mood of service. Both are important. And simply hearing and not doing any seva is also useless. Correct? But still I can tell you, it is not useless. As much as I say, it is not useless if a person has got so addicted to chanting that he is only chanting. And such a person, even if he doesn't do much, he will go back to Godhead. An excellent example of this, even if you read Radhanath Maharaj's journey home, you will find Akinchana Krishnadas Babaji, who meets in Vrindavan. Akinchana Krishnadas Babaji is one such person. Whatever you tell him, what he will say? Hare Krishna. Babaji, there is so much politics in the temple. Oh, Hare Krishna. Babaji, I am hungry. Hare Krishna. Babaji, I am full. Full. Hare Krishna. There is only one thing to say. What is that? Hare Krishna. All the time he will say that. Okay. And continuously chanting. In fact, in Radha Gopinath temple in Chowpatty, we have one such person. Very similar to Akinchana Krishnadas Babaji. His name is Sudama Prabhu. You know Sudama Prabhu? Yeah. In fact, I heard he is coming to Sydney next month. We have to try and get him to Melbourne if possible. So from Chowpatty. So this Sudama Prabhu is called as Namacharya of Chowpatty temple. He is always chanting. If you go for Yatra also, he is always chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Never I have seen him not chanting. Always chanting. 24 hours he is chanting. I don't know, when he is sleeping I have not observed him. Maybe he is chanting that time also. So if such a person is there, then such a person is sometimes not disturbed with seva. Akinchana Krishnadas Babaji, when he was there, he was a disciple of Bhaktivedanta Saraswati. The other disciples came and complained. He said he is not doing any service in the temple. 24 hours he is chanting. Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj said, 24 hours? Very good, he said. 24 hours he is chanting. Very nice. Like that. And then they said, no, but service is important and this and that. So Maharaj said, okay, you do one thing. You put a newspaper advertisement. We need chanters in the temple. 24-hour chanters in the temple. And we'll say, we'll take care of everything. India, poverty is there. Who doesn't want food, shelter and clothing? He said, we will provide food, shelter, clothing, everything inside the ashram. Good bedroom, everything will be provided. All facilities. But what the duty of the person is? 24-hour chanting. Any applicants? They actually put ad. No response. So then Maharaj explained, see, this is the thing. Nobody will do. Right? Even if we are told, Prabhu, no service. I may have for example, I have backache, okay? if I have to do Shaligram worship, for example, Shaligram worship, terrible backache is, you have to sit and do like this. I have not tried it so far. I have to first improve my back. But let's say I am, even for Gauraita dressing, my back sometimes I am doing like this and oh my goodness, it just aches. Suppose Bhaktivedanta Prabhu tells, from tomorrow, no, you don't do any service. You just chant. After some time, I'll say, Prabhu, can I do that service? It's really nice. You like doing that service, no? Gauraita dressing or whatever. No? So because that service then results in you chanting better quality rounds like that. So for most people, we need that seva to sustain our sadhana. But for a person who has got the taste of the holy name, then he just keeps chanting all the time. He is already in bliss like that. So we have to. So there are various aspects of Bhajananandi and Goshti Anandi. So we have to really understand all this carefully. So sadhana and seva has to go hand in hand. Devotional service can be done in mode of passion as well as mode of ignorance. Devotional service can be done in the three modes of material nature. But we have to understand that 99% of the progress in devotional service comes only by quality of sadhana, especially chanting and hearing. 99% progress comes from there. So if that aspect is not addressed in our life, we may do so many wonderful things, we may do so many big projects, but it is very difficult to progress like that. So chanting must be given its due attention. Maximum progress like that. And I have seen in my own life, I can share in this room, that my own quality of preaching, I have seen it fluctuates. The days that I am doing very good sadhana, I have always seen that my preaching is very effective. And you can see, when you preach, you can see what effect it has. And when I am bit like this, not hearing properly, whatever, then I myself realize that no, I don't think the audience could connect today, or neither I connected nor they connected like that. You understand that. But when your sadhana is good, then you don't have to worry. Then Krishna will speak through us. Purity is the force, Prabhupada said. Purity is the force, utility is the principle, and books are the essence. These are three things which Prabhupada said. Purity is the force. So even if we are not very eloquent in our speech, right, it doesn't matter. Purity itself will make. Just imagine Srila Prabhupada's lecture that day. Yamuna Lila was playing at home. And I was in the bedroom. I couldn't understand a word of what Prabhupada was speaking. Because Prabhupada, if you see, Prabhupada's English is very difficult to follow. The Krishna Consciousness movement, like that he'll say. And you're wondering what was that? You're thinking like that. And if with that, and sometimes in office, when someone is speaking, we can't understand their accent and they can't understand our accent. We struggle in meetings also to understand sometimes. Especially if the person is on top of that, if the person is over the phone, we just can't understand. In our office also, Jaimuni, when we have this John Carter, when he speaks on the phone, I really can't understand what he's talking. I have to, hey, John, can you come again? No, like that. Because he speaks a different accent and I can't understand. And see, I'm sure he's also having problem with my English, My accent, he may not be able to understand like that. So we are struggling so much. Now how this person who is 70 years old went with this heavy Bengali accent of English, and then all the Westerners now are becoming devotees. Germans, Russians, so many people, Americans, with that, accent. So which means it's not about, eloquence, or it's not about anything else, externals. It is just the purity of Srila Prabhupada. It's the pure desire to serve his spiritual master. So that purity can give us a lot of abilities and empower us like anything. He was completely empowered by his spiritual master. Like that. So therefore, that focus on sadhana is very important. Nevertheless, of course, we have to again come back to the point, not get too carried away only because our sadhana is very good. Also go out and show compassion. Our sadhana should lead to compassion for other living entities. Because Lord Chaitanya movement must be progressed at any cost. Otherwise, where is the question of mercy of Lord Chaitanya? So that balance is required. Arjuna said, O Madhusudana, the system of yoga which you have summarized appears impractical and unendurable to me, for the mind is restless and unsteady. Janeshwar Prabhu. 33.
The system of mysticism described is by Lord Krishna to Arjuna, beginning with the words Chocho Deshe and ending with the yogi Parama is here being rejected by Arjuna out of the feeling of inability. It is not possible for an ordinary man to leave home and go to a secluded place in the mountains or jungles to practice yoga in the age of Kali. The present age is characterized by a bitter struggle for life of short duration. People are not serious about self-realization, but even by simple practical means, and what to speak of this difficult yoga system, which regulates the mode of living, the manner of sitting, selection of place, and detachment of the mind from material engagement. As a practical man, Arjuna thought it was impossible to follow this system of yoga, even though he was favorably endowed in many ways. He belonged to the royal family, and was highly elevated in terms of numerous qualities. He was a great warrior. He had great longevity, and above all, he was the most intimate friend of Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. 5,000 years ago, Arjuna had much better facilities than we do now. Yet he refused to accept this system of yoga. In fact, we do not find any record in the history of practicing it at any time. Therefore, this system must be considered generally impossible in this age of Kali. Of course, it may be possible for some very few rare men, but for the people in general, it is an impossible proposal. If this were so 5,000 years ago, then what of the present day? Those who are imitating this yoga system in different so-called schools and societies, although complacent or certainly wasting their time, they are completely in ignorance of the desired goal.
Okay. So, and we'll read 34 also. For the mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong. O Krishna, and to subdue it, I think, is more difficult than controlling the wind. So, after hearing the descriptions of Ashtanga Yoga, in this section, in these two verses, Arjuna is highlighting his inability to follow this process. Also, the sections from 33 to 36 talk about the necessity of controlling one's mind. That is also a theme in these 4 verses. Now, if you see, Arjuna had all the qualifications, as Prabhupada writes in this purport. To be able to control he had all the qualifications. He had high parentage. He was from a royal family. And therefore, money was never a problem for him. Money, prestige, power, job loss, retrenchment and whatever. He had no such problems, which will cause anxiety. Oh, my job will go away, So in my meditation, I'll think, okay, how do I support my family now? He had no such problems. Okay, royal family, and he had an excellent support system of the royal family for him to be able to experiment this kind of a yoga. But he did not. One of the qualities of a Ashtanga yogi is what? Fearlessness. We saw that, right? In the previous classes. And Arjuna was the greatest warrior on the planet at that time. So he had that quality also, right? Arjuna had longevity on his side, which is required for Ashtanga yoga. You need a long life for doing Ashtanga yoga. He also had that by his side. He was living in a different yoga. Kali Yuga had not begun fully, right? Also, Arjuna was an intimate friend of Krishna, and Krishna was with him all the time. So he wouldn't have had much difficulty meditating on his friend, isn't it? So if you see it in that sense, he had everything going for him. But still, that Arjuna is saying that it is very difficult to control the mind. And now, what to speak of us? What is that verse? Prayana alpa ayushya sabhya kalau asmin yuge janaha manda sumanda matayo manda bhagyahi upadrutaha. In this age of Kali, Srimad Bhagavatam says that men are misguided, lazy, and above all, disturbed, and above all, quarrelsome. Quarrelsome and above all, disturbed. Something like that. Distressed. Yeah. So in this situation, Where can we practice Ashtanga Yoga from? So, because our mind is attached, our mind takes us through a lot of insecurities and attachments that we have. So what we do, we allow the holy name to detach us. We allow the holy name to control our mind. The Ashtanga yogi has to control his mind in order to meditate. Our meditation helps us in controlling our mind. It's like that. So, we go for what is called as the higher taste to control the mind. The mind always takes us to the lower demands. But by developing a higher taste in Krishna consciousness, then the lower modes will automatically go away. Like that. In fact, and therefore we don't do any external mind control. We are not in that business. We are not in the yoga of external mind control. Keep staring at some lamp or something like that. So we can't do all that. Anyway, we can't stare at a candle for too long, isn't it? Very difficult to stare at a candle for too long. Like that. Meditate on the light. We can't do all that. So, few years back when I was reading this book, Madhurya Kadambini, it's a very small book. It's in fact in one of the most difficult books to understand, but very thin book like that, Madhurya Kadambini, by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He talks about, the book talks about the various stages of bhakti, starting from Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivriti, Nishtha, Ruchi, Asatti, Bhava and Prema. It talks about all the stages from faith to love. Right? Now, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur mentions, he compares the difference between the lower stages and the higher stages. He says, in the higher stages of bhakti, what happens? In the lower stages of bhakti, what happens? Our struggle is what? Prabhuji, I am trying to think of Krishna. I said Hare Krishna, one mantra at a time. But I still don't know where the mind managed to escape and go somewhere else. This is our problem. I am trying to chant attentively, but I don't know when the mind escaped. Sometimes we don't even realize, no? We are thinking, oh, very nice, Hare Krishna, one word at a time. Talking about words, Oxford Dictionary, gives so many words. Hare Krishna. The word will take us on a trip, somewhere else, like that. One thing, or Krishna's ankle bells are so good. Yeah, ankle bells are so good. When I go to India, Vrindavan next time, I'll buy ankle bells for Krishna. By the way, should I buy it in Loi Bazaar? Yeah, when I went to Loi Bazaar, that vada pav shop was also there. So that vada pav is so tasty nowadays. So from ankle bell, now you have gone to, mind has taken you to vada pav, which is a famous dish. Like that, batata vada. So this is how the mind, it takes us beautifully, it finds a loophole, pat, you're gone. And then you're finished, the round is over. Next round, Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, one round gone. Like that. And you see it, 16 rounds go by. Like
but
that.
This is the challenge, Prabhuji. Attentive chanting, whole day you're bombarding the mind, you're forcing the mind to work hard at work. And then in the morning you give it rest, at sleep and you want it. So you're
the mind is turbulent and restless. Obstinate, it's stubborn also, it won't move. It's stubborn.
So all these yoga processes are defined to go against what the intrinsic nature
against
of the mind
tide. Correct. Yeah. So the problem which we have is that we don't know when our mind has slipped away from Krishna. But Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur talks about the higher stages. It is said in the higher stages, I think he was talking about Ruchi or Asatti. In one of these stages of bhakti, it is said, when I am constantly meditating on Krishna, I don't know how my mind suddenly, went to, when I am trying to meditate on material things, I don't know how my mind escaped and went to Krishna. It's like that. So they find it very difficult to meditate on material things in the higher stages of bhakti. Every time I decide that, I must buy a car, I don't know how my mind is still, it's losing that attraction and thinking, oh, blue car, you must buy a blue Rolls Royce car, blue BMW. When I went and saw the blue BMW, I'm thinking, oh my God, Krishna, how beautiful is your blue color? And then I forgot. Somebody had to tell me, hey, excuse me, you're looking at a BMW car. You came here to buy a car. But my mind wandered to Krishna, who is blue in color. So this is the higher stages. You see everything and you see Krishna in that. And you forget that material object. That is different. Our problem is, Krishna is blue in color, and then what good things we can buy which are blue in color? Can I paint my house blue color? Will it go with my curtains? So it's our problem is exactly opposite. So this is a difference which he nicely explains in Madhurya Kadamini. It's two-sided things. So therefore, Manda Subandha Matya. In this age, our mind is big problem. And talking of equal vision. So here somewhere it is said that the yogi sees everyone with equal vision, blah, 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 blah. Talking of equal vision, Arjuna is wondering, could I see Maharaj Yudhishthira and Duryodhan with equal vision? Can he see with equal vision? Arjuna could not. Even Arjuna struggled to see them with equal vision. So seeing someone with equal vision, even. And what about speak of Bhima? Did Bhima see with equal vision? Bhima he was thirsting for the blood, like that. So even at that level, it's very difficult to see with equal vision, Samadarshi. But, so Arjuna is thinking, can I see with equal vision and still carry on my duty of fighting in this battlefield? So maintaining this outlook of equal vision is extremely problematic. It's not easy. For Arjuna also, what to speak of us, who have so many problems with devotees and non-devotees. Both, we have problems all the time. And in that context, again comes restricted relationships. So this is where restricted relationships, we are tying it back now. Restricted relationships, because we will not be happy if our mind is not happy. Our mind will not be happy if we have experiences with devotees which are unpleasant all the time. Same devotee, we are trying to establish that, connect to the devotee again and again, and we are getting beaten and beaten and beaten. Then when you are chanting, you say, oh my God, why this devotee is there in Melbourne? Can this devotee be transferred to Muruvilamba farm? For some higher services? Like that. Or can I go somewhere else? Like that. So therefore we are not happy. Like that. So better then, that's where the restricted relationships comes. So then you can seek higher counseling with a devotee who you trust about problems with that devotee or whatever. Similarly, that devotee may also have a problem with us. It's not that we are only the reference point of goodness. We may be the problem also for all that like that. So therefore, equal vision is very difficult. So therefore, restricted relationships plays a very important role in this context. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, His Grace Bhurijan Prabhu writes in Surrender Unto Me, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur compares the mind to a sharp needle. The mind is compared to a sharp needle. Just as a sharp needle cannot pierce an iron forcibly, similarly our intelligence cannot pierce the mind. The mind is so rigid. Even the sharp intelligence cannot pierce the rigid framework of the hardened mind. Like that. So that's what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is writing this. Like that. So in the next verse, the question is answered. If the mind still, this stubborn mind, if it's possible to control, how is it possible? By what means? If controlling the mind is still possible, by what means can it be done? That leads us to 35. Lord Sri Krishna, Lord is answering now. Lord Sri Krishna said, O mighty armed son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind. But it is possible. How? By suitable practice and by detachment. I think it's I want a fast reader. Very fast. 1 minute should finish the paragraph. Mahesh is not it. Quick, otherwise we'll lose 1 minute in deciding who is the speaker.
The difficulty of controlling the absolute mind as expressed by Arjuna is expected by the consultant audit. But at the same time, he suggests that the practice and detachment, it is possible. What is that practice? In present age, no one can observe the strict rules and regulations of placing oneself in a sacred place, focusing the mind on super soul, restraining the senses and mind, observing celibacy, remaining alone, etc. By the practice of Krishna consciousness, however, one engages in 9 types of devotional services to the Lord. The first and the foremost of such devotional engagement is hearing about Krishna.
See, please hear this statement very carefully. The first and foremost is what for mind control? Shravanam. Please note these points. Yeah.
This is a very powerful transcendental method for purging the mind of all misgivings. The more one hears about Krishna, the more one becomes enlightened and detached from everything that draws the mind away from Krishna. By detaching the mind from activities not devoted to the Lord, one can very easily learn Vairagya. Vairagya means detachment from matter and engagement of mind in spirit. Impersonal spiritual detachment is more difficult than attaching the mind to the activities of Krishna. This is practical because by hearing about Krishna, one becomes automatically attached to the Supreme Spirit.
Little slowly. Don't know what's going on. Sorry.
This attachment is called spiritual satisfaction. It is just like the feeling of satisfaction. It's just like the feeling of satisfaction an angry man has for every morsel of food he eats. The more one eats while hungry, the more one feels satisfaction and strength. Similarly, by discharge of devotional service, one feels transcendental satisfaction as the mind becomes detached from material objects. It is something like curing a disease by expert treatment and appropriate diet. Hearing the transcendental activities of Lord Krishna is therefore expert treatment for the mad mind, and eating the foodstuff offered to Krishna is the appropriate diet for suffering patient. This treatment is the process of Krishna consciousness.
Okay. So Srila Prabhupada is talking about the ABCD of controlling the mind. A is association of devotees through two processes, Vapu and Vani. Specifically, Prabhupada is talking about what? Vani, hearing. Hearing from pure devotees. Very important. Hearing from Acharyas. Constant hearing. Every day hearing. Then B is Bhagavatam. Books. Taking shelter of Srila Prabhupada's books. Chanting, C, and D is diet, eating prasadam. And the importance of hearing specifically is heavily emphasized in this section. Like that. Now, when I went to Chopati this time, then not only was I informed on this restricted relationships, but also what is called as daily confidential hearing. One of my godbrothers, he told me this. He told me about daily confidential hearing. This is very important, or intense confidential hearing. Choose one devotee, any one devotee, he said. Choose any one devotee whose mood you want to absorb and whose lectures you like. You always relation, who makes an impact on you every time you hear his. But ensure that every day, even for 5 minutes in that day, you hear at least one sentence from that devotee. This is called as daily confidential hearing. One devotee you have to choose. You may choose your spiritual master or your god brother or your spiritual master's god brother. Anyone, whoever inspires you. Like that. So this has to be done. Every day the daily confidential hearing must be done. I tried it and I succeeded for almost 2 months. Daily confidential hearing I did. But last few weeks, again gone. Why? Because my MP3 player conked off. And I don't know, then we were discussing whether to buy a new MP3 player or put battery. And this discussion, there are, when you discuss with spouse, there are 15 views that will come. And invariably one person says put battery and I think it should be replaced. No, put battery, put replace, put battery, put replace. And 3-4 weeks have gone and now no hearing down. So I am feeling my consciousness is already disturbed now. I can feel it. The daily confidential hearing has gone. And when hearing goes, then the mind tells you that why don't you do just 16? 3 rounds you can do in the tram anyway. Like that. And then tram chanting starts after that. When you don't compel yourself to hear, then you will chant in the tram. Correct? Because the mind is very tricky. He says, take it easy. 15 minutes more sleep in the morning. 20 minutes more you take rest. Because 3 rounds you can do in the tram. Anyway, your MP3 player is down now. You can't hear. Correct? You decide whether to put battery or whether you should buy a new one. You decide that. And now you sleep. Yeah. What to do? No, it's not my fault. I was genuine. My MP3 player conked off. What can I do? Mind is powerful. Very chalu it is. It will take you nicely for a ride. Chalu means what? For Mataji's translation. Very shrewd, cunning. It will take you everywhere. Like that. So the importance of hearing is underscored. Now this daily confidential hearing, it's easy. You can do it in the tram. If you can't do it in the tram, for grihasthas, most of us, we can do it while ironing clothes. I have found it very nice. Of course, I don't iron clothes. My wife does that. One thing I can't do in my life. She does that. But I fold clothes. After washing, I promise you, I fold clothes after washing. It's my responsibility to take all the load and fold. And when I'm folding clothes, then I'm able to hear. So it's a very, pardon?
Apart from cooking, that is.
Cooking I can't do.
So that is two things.
Yeah, I'll prefer hearing. I'll prefer anything to cooking. Okay. So, and my wife will also prefer that. She doesn't want me to enter the kitchen. That day, somebody came to my house. You came, no? You saw what happened when I entered the kitchen. He came there, he said, Prabhu, you don't enter the kitchen. And bang, I broke something in front of him only. Of course, I blamed him after that. Because he was there, I told my wife he broke. Whereas I had broken it. He also accepted that he broke. Okay. So anyway, so that's beside the point. So daily confidential hearing you can do while ironing clothes, you can do while folding clothes, you can do while washing utensils. That is something which I don't mind doing. So you can hear, the MP3 player is playing in your ear, or you can put the lecture aloud and then hear, or you can go in hearing the tram. So you don't have to really take time out of anything, but this must be done. It must be done. Because daily confidential hearing has got a great impact on two things. One in the quality of chanting and another in the quality of preaching. The more we hear, the more things we will have to say to the people who we preach to. Otherwise, what happens? I know of one Bhakti Vriksha where the members started dwindling after some time. Why? When I took feedback, they said every class looks same only. Same thing is being told in the class. You are not the body, you are the soul. The soul decided to enjoy separately from Krishna. Therefore, in the Tatastha Shakti, therefore the Lord created material world. How many times can you can't go on telling the same thing for years and years, right? There is obviously, because you may say that no, the same message is there, it will purify, which is fine, but the audience is not pure. They are not like, Saunaka Rishi and all the, the audience wants variety, at least, because we are not addressing sages in Naimisaranya to be able to tell the same thing. You are not the body, you are the soul, and everyone will understand, get deep perspectives. They will say, Maja nahi aa raha hai, same thing, and next time they will see who is the speaker, and then, oh, okay, we'll chant in the courtyard, like that. So, therefore, it is our duty also to make the lecture interesting and absorbing. And when can we do that? Only when our hearing is powerful. We should be able to extract more juice out of what Prabhupada is speaking. We may not be intelligent, but there are other devotees who are intelligent. They have read the same thing and they have spoken. So we just take that and we repeat. That's all. Isn't it? Of course, we can add our own experience also. So therefore, it is not very difficult to preach. But our preaching will be as effective as our hearing. Our sadhana will also be as effective as our hearing. We will not get motivation, to improve anything in our life if we are not regularly hearing.
What is the confidential part in that? Why do you call it
Confidential is because you choose one devotee, and your confidential hearing means, you start understanding the devotee's mood. If you only focus on one devotee and hear again and again and again and again and again and again, whole lifetime, you will observe the mood of that devotee. You will know how that devotee thinks, and you will also start thinking like that devotee. That's what we want, isn't it? From the people who hear from. If I keep on hearing my spiritual master's lectures again and again and again and again, then what will happen? What he says? He says behave. So every time, suppose he annoys me, and I want to give it back to him. Prabhuji, So that immediately I want to actually catch him, I want to squeeze his neck. But my hand is going like that and I am remembering, Maharaj said, Prabhuji, Haribol, Prabhu, how are you, Prabhu? Prabhu, actually it was my fault only yesterday, You will start saying all these things, Because you just yesterday only, you heard your Maharaj's lecture where he has said that problems are only inside us, not outside, like that. And we should be very forgiving and compassionate with devotees, because with Vaishnavas, relationships is most important. So when I am going to catch his neck, at that time I remember, no, I need him, He is a Vaishnava. He is dear to his spiritual master also. He is also servant of Krishna. We have to remind. If that hearing is not regular, then what will happen? Our mind will take over. Say, give it back to him. After all, Shivananda Prabhu insulted you. How can you tolerate? You give it back. No problem. A sword for a sword. What is that in English? What do they say? A what for a what?
Eye for eye.
Huh?
Eye for eye.
What is that? Okay, whatever.
So confidential here doesn't mean that it has to be confidential from everybody else.
It's confidential in the sense that it's between you and that person. Yeah. You are not telling the whole world. You should also hear from him. No, not like that. You are hearing from him. It's in that sense it's confidential.
Is it possible to hear the same lecture again?
Oh yes. Same lecture again and again. No problem. In fact, if you at least in my life, I can tell you, in my spiritual master, every lecture he says, Trinadapi Sunichena, Tarori Vasayashna. Amanina Manadena, Kirtanesa. Every lecture. There is not one lecture I have heard where he has not said that. Same thing again and again. So even that message also in different lectures, same message. Every time. Be tolerant than a tree, be humbler than a blade of grass, but still it doesn't register. But if you hear every day constantly, then it reminds you, oh no, I have to become humbler than a blade of grass right now. But right now what is happening? I am trying to trample everyone. I am mad elephant. Whereas I should be the grass which the elephant is trampling. Like that. You get reminded of that every day. So it impacts your consciousness. We have seen that practically. When we are hearing and hearing and hearing, then it impacts everything that we do. Like that. And we don't hear, then mind takes over. Maya jhapatiya dhare. Because bhoga vancha kare. Bhoga vancha kare means what? Krishna bhuli, what is that? Krishna bahir mukha jiva bhoga vancha kare. You turn your head away from Krishna. And then you are trying to bhoga vancha kare. You are trying to enjoy material nature. And then what happens? When you try to do that, Maya jhapatiya dhare. It will immediately come and grab you. Like that. So also this confidential hearing or hearing regularly keeps our Krishna consciousness in the mode of goodness. Because we can do Krishna consciousness even in the mode of passion and ignorance. It checks the mind. It's a very effective tool. Now Lord Krishna in these verses is calling Arjuna as Mahabaho. What is Mahabaho? The mighty armed. Because the same Lord or same Arjuna has defeated Lord Shiva also in battle. Like that. So Arjuna is who? Arjuna is the greatest of great warriors. But there is one more warrior which is the crest jewel of all warriors. Which is that warrior? The mind. The mind is even tougher warrior than Arjuna is. Like that. So therefore Krishna is calling Arjuna as Mahabaho specifically. It's like almost like teasing him like that. And then Lord is also addressing him as Kaunteya. Kaunteya means the son of Kunti. Why? Bhujan Prabhu writes, why he is addressing him as Kaunteya? Don't worry, because you are the Kunti Maharani is very dear to me, because you are her nephew, therefore I will help you control your mind. He is almost giving that assurance. I know your aunt, don't worry. Like that. Almost like that. So he is calling him as Kaunteya specifically. This is what Bhujan Prabhu draws out in the purports. It's difficult for us to be able to understand these points. Only Acharyas like Bhujan Prabhu can extract such things for us. Otherwise it's not written anywhere. So, okay, the next is 36. For one whose mind is unbridled, self-realization is difficult. If our mind is, what is unbridled? Uncontrolled. There is no bridle on the mind. For one whose mind is unbridled, self-realization is difficult work. But he whose mind is controlled and who strives by appropriate means is assured of success. That is my opinion. So whether we practice Nishkama Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga or Bhakti Yoga, we need this control. We need Abhyas and we need Vairagya. What is Abhyas? Abhyas means following the regulative principles or the tenets of or the processes of that yoga. That is required to be followed, as well as renouncing unfavorable desires. So Lord Krishna is instructing Arjuna on how to control the mind. So for the mind, active engagement is needed to control the mind. If the mind is not engaged, then the mind sitting in this classroom itself can wander somewhere else. Right? Suddenly we will find that our mind is somewhere else and the speaker is speaking like that. That can happen to the mind. Right? So constant engagement is needed for this mind. And therefore for constant engagement, there is a timetable that is required for all of us. Timetable is required. We have to analyze our life and activities and have to have a timetable. If we have not prepared a timetable, at least we should prepare a timetable. Whether we are following or not, at least we should have a timetable in our life. Otherwise it's very difficult to be regulated without a timetable. Otherwise we will be just doing random activities throughout the day. Like that. People who are attached to the temple, for them it's a bit easier because they are compelled. But for grihasthas at home, you have a choice. And when you have a choice, usually we don't do it rather than do it, right? Like that. So if I had a choice to come for Mangalarati, I will not come. But if I know that deity, I have to blow that conch shell at 4:30, then I will do whatever that it takes to come. Isn't it? So therefore we don't give choice to ourselves. engage the mind in some, commit to something, and then we can do it. This is what my God brother, you remember when we met Anand Vrindavan Prabhu, that's when he told me that. He said, unless you commit, you will not do, he said. Then the mind will say, oh, you are tired, you don't come, it's okay. After all, you are having a hard day, like that. The mind will tell like that. And then you will stop coming after that. That is the mind.
He said we have to take vows.
Commitment is needed. So then we have to take vows. Yeah. So say that I will do the sweet offering service or whatever. I will prepare sweets or I will wash the sweet dishes in the morning. And that way you have to come because the service is waiting for you. Then you will come. You will sit in that car and you will start driving. Or when that alarm does, you will keep it 2 minutes earlier than the normal time. Right? And you will keep another double alarm, which I do normally. I have 3 alarms like that. One which is snoozing all the time, but if it fails to snooze, there is my cell phone also. Like that. And if that also fails, then I tell my wife, just in case you are awake, just wake me up. Okay. So constant engagement is needed for the mind. So after understanding the formidability of the obstacles to progress in yoga and hearing of the process to remove them, Arjuna asks the next question in text 37. We will end with that. Text 37 is very small. Arjuna said, O Krishna, what is the destination of the unsuccessful transcendentalist who in the beginning takes to the process of self-realization with faith, but who later desists due to worldly mindedness and thus does not attain perfection in mysticism? So, it is talking about a sadhaka who has faith, shraddha. It's talking about people who are like all of us, who have a lot of faith in the process of Krishna consciousness, everything perfect, who have faith in authority, who have faith in spiritual master, who acknowledge sannyasis, right? Who don't mind surrendering to Guru, Sadhu and Shastra, all of us sitting in this room. So none of us are cheaters here. Some cheating is always there because we are conditioned souls, but largely we don't want to cheat. Like none of us will be saying that, okay, I will not do 16 rounds, but I will tell everyone I did 16 rounds. I mean nobody will do that, right? No sane person, devotee will do that, like that. So we are not cheaters. But the mind still deviates us before we attain success. The mind can deviate us. Genuinely the mind can deviate us from Krishna consciousness. So what about such a devotee who has made progress in Krishna consciousness but who dies before he reaches perfection? So Arjuna clarifies this question in the next verse further, where he asks, O mighty armed Krishna, does not such a man who is bewildered from the path of transcendence fall away from both spiritual and material success and perish like a riven cloud with no position in any sphere, neither successful in material life nor successful in spiritual life? Can that happen? What happens to a person who is neither fully a materialist nor fully a spiritual realized person? Does he disintegrate like a small cloud that breaks away from the big cloud? Does it happen to him? He has not been able to enjoy his senses because all the time Mangala Arati and no illicit sex, no intoxication, no gambling. Neither you have done that, neither you have, and you have failed here also. Like that. So you are not seeing the progress here also. So what happens in an imperfect stage? You are following the 4 regularity principles, that way a lot of austerity, but your chanting has not been attentive, like that. So what to speak of such persons? Like that. So this is the question. And then he says, this is my doubt, O Krishna, and I ask you to dispel it completely. But for you, no one is to be found who can destroy this specific doubt. Because only Rishikesha can tell us how to control the mind, like that. So, only Lord Krishna can dispel, because Bhurijan Prabhu writes, only he can dispel because only he knows what is the past, present and future. So only he can dispel all these kinds of tricky questions. What happens to a devotee who has not done that? So Lord Krishna has to go to the past and tell cases of devotees. Also he can tell the future of such devotees. If this happens, then the devotee will take birth in this and this. So he needs someone like that to advise. So he is asking Lord Krishna. So let us see Lord's answers in the next class. Srila Prabhupada ki.